Okay, great. Thank you. Can you see my slide now, Brittany?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, great. Again, this is Keaton Shaw. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to start by giving you an overview on ServiceNow platform and how reporting and dashboard plays into it. We're going to cover the ServiceNow reporting and dashboard sort of technical overview and then go right into a demo. This is the layout of ServiceNow platform. It started out as an ITSM platform in the top left corner, and we're going to go clockwise. It turned and expanded into other areas like CSM, intelligent apps, HR. It has SecOps products that include security incident response, vulnerability response, GRC. It also has service portal, mobile apps, ITBM suite of products, as well as ITOM. All of these products, if you notice, are shaded. And what that shading implies is the reporting aspect of ServiceNow, and dashboard can pull data and present data in reports and onto ServiceNow dashboards from all of the hundreds of applications that are available. It'll also present the data into a service portal and mobile interface. So you can have data sample and a dashboard from ITSM, ITOM, HR, specific sort of applications that are meaningful and relevant for all areas of the business. The next slide here is, before we go into the details of the components that make up ServiceNow reports and dashboard, I wanted to just speak briefly about the reporting strategy, because ServiceNow itself is, everybody probably knows that it's an HTML web-based product, and you have an intuitive sort of, reporting dashboards that is clickable. And when we work with clients on reporting strategies, what we generally look for and focus on is the audience and what is the meaningful data that you're going to want to present, and the target sort of the objectives that you want to meet in presenting the data to the audience. You also want to keep in mind what do you want them to see and consume with an objective of what is the end goal. So when we set up the dashboards, we look at areas where there are trigger points that says, okay, we're going to try to make impact on cost, quality, products, etc. And you're also tying that with products and services that your organization offers, and having the audience in mind, in that specific audience as to who the endpoint end consumer of that data will be, is sort of your highest priority or focus, along with what sort of business questions and sort of continual service improvements that you have. ServiceNow out of the box has over 1,000 reports, and those reports make up of various report types, going from, again, clockwise from top left. You have all of these sort of, intuitive, easy to understand bar charts, pivot charts, line charts, etc. You also have sort of, speedometer, single score, which is very simple in terms of a roll-up. You also have your standard pie charts, donut charts that you could also create in Excel and other tools. Bubble charts represents where, sort of small to large in terms of what data points, represents the size of the bubble, and then map. All of these are, again, clickable, editable. When you create ServiceNow reports, you end up with these type of colorful charts. Here's an example of a list chart, donut chart, time series, etc. And just like I had said earlier, the data can be pulled from any number of applications like ITSM, CSM, Service Catalog, etc. And the goal is to present the data starting at the top left, where your most meaningful data, where on the dashboard it's going to be drawn, and then other data providing sort of consistent measure goes across. You don't want to try to overload the dashboard with too much information. You want to try to keep these reports onto a dashboard that are reasonably aligned. And you want to, again, focus on what is an actionable trigger, what are the insights and into products and actions into services that you're delivering. So out of the thousands of reports, you can start with that as your base for ITSM, ITBM. You can measure things like, your delivery of your services, products. You can report on costs, spend. In security products, you can focus and report on areas of concerns. What are the things that we're looking to remediate, exceptions that you might be creating into security incidents. When you create the report, you have the ability to share those reports. You can share it in terms of exporting it to a PDF, an Excel file, an image file, or a CSV file. You can also share it where it is emailed on a sort of scheduled or recurring basis. You can also publish the report to a portal, or you can publish it to a widget. There are roles that come out of the box for admins in terms of who can edit the report, who can create the report. And those roles generally get customized depending on the way that you decide to allow people to create and share reports. We've already talked about how reports can be created, added to the dashboard, and they get created and embedded into what is called a widget in ServiceNow terminology. And you can also add reports to the service portal homepage. And an example here is a Now mobile app, where when you render it on a portal, on the mobile app, it'll be similar to a dashboard on the portal where you see the different widgets. And if you click into it, you can see the different types of charts that also are available. When you start collecting data and reporting on that data, you sort of use the out-of-box metrics as a start, and then you can add to that the common sort of things that organizations will measure and report on are what makes them effective in terms of delivering an IT service management process, or delivering projects, or delivering security operations. When I was a ServiceNow customer, one of the big metrics was, hey, do we have an incident or a service request that gets bounced around between different teams? So you could report on reassigned tickets more than, greater than 3 times. Other common metrics are, everybody probably is familiar with mean time to resolve for incidents, unauthorized change, first contact resolution, where you're resolving tickets at your, first level of service desk, or you don't have any escalations going to tier 2, tier 3. You can also report on things like general request and since CSAT scores from either internal or external customers. This is where you're trying to provide white glove service sort of treatment to your clients. We're going to now go into the details of some of the reporting feature functions. If you look on the right-hand side of the chart, when you build out a report, you generally go from left to right, where you first identify what your data source is. In that data source, you can pull from a table, external data, data sources, or metric basis. Then you go into the second tab in terms of a workflow. That's where you decide what type of report you want to configure or create. The next tab is the configuration of the report. In the configure, you decide how you want that data sliced, diced, rolled up. And then the last is sort of the look and feel, the color, the final sort of, finished touches that you want to add to the report. interactive filters are things that you can add onto a report widget, so you don't have to create reports for every sort of variation. You can have the interactive filters applied based on a user, based on different types of configuration, like the interactive filter can be a choice list, the reference field, a date, a Boolean. So what that does is allows you to toggle the report without having to create, X number of reports for the different users that would be there, that would consume the data depending on their role. You can also use the multiple data sets. We've already talked about that, where you can pull data from tables, data sources, and data sources are basically filters and sort of things that you've applied to table, so you don't have to constantly massage that for every report. You can also have statistics on reports in terms of how often was that report run, is it scheduled, how often is it accessed, used. You can also create database views. That is used when you're trying to report, for example, on a single report, you want a combination of data that includes information from an incident table. You also want to report, for example, from a problem or a customer service. That's when you would create a report. So you, in terms of like, you create reports in Oracle, any other SQL database, it's the same sort of a concept. You also have the ability to create drill downs, so you can drill from one report type into another report type. So you can go from a bar to something else. That ability also exists, so it doesn't necessarily end up with a list view. And again, the report sources are more or less the same as data sources, and they can be, tables, external imports, metrics base. And the last thing I'll say is the metric base on the slide is sample of data that you can pull, like CPU utilization, memory utilization, and you don't want every single metric in there. So that sample of data is brought into ServiceNow for reporting purposes. When you create a dashboard, it's very similar to reporting. You work with what is this sort of user interface on the right-hand side. And we'll look at this in detail when we go into the demo of the different type of dashboards that you can create and the type of things that can be put on those dashboards. You can pull in the first field here under favorites is reports. You can also pull in data from performance analytics and all of the other things in the list. And I'll tell you more about the bubbles that are there and what those individual things are when we go into the demo. And by the way, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chats. And Brittany, if you want, I'm happy to take questions along the way. This is another layer of things that can be added onto dashboards, like I said earlier in the prior slides, from performance analytics. And what performance analytics provides is interactive filters. So again, as it's shown on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side on this image, the ability to redo and represent the data without having to create a new report or a new dashboard. So you can filter and vary the data that's being reported by the filters that are on the left-hand side in terms of, hey, show me data for a specific severity, specific assignment group, specific user, specific CI. You can also look at breakdowns. Spotlight also brings up the data that is most meaningful, so it sort of drives work to the user without having the user trying to figure out, okay, what is the most sort of highest priority and meaningful work that I need to take care of immediately. And all of these links are clickable, so it'll take you into different places on ServiceNow's community site or the product site. So if you get this PDF file and if you want to, learn more, you don't have to go fishing for these things. All of these things are links that'll go to various places in ServiceNow's websites. the Inform Analytics, Analytics Hub, all of these things we'll look at in detail also when we go into the demo. If you have other reporting tools outside of ServiceNow, you can, there are apps in ServiceNow Store. You can also use Crystal Reports. A lot of clients will use Microsoft Power BI, etc., to pull and present data from ServiceNow. So you can also use external reporting tools that are here, and I'm sure that people have others. There are some useful links in ServiceNow page, again, if you want more information on performance analytics. Before I jump into the demo, I want to tell you about two free offerings that we have. One is being scheduled for in about a month from now on June 30th. This is a free workshop. So what we're doing now is presenting and showing you ServiceNow reporting and dashboards, but it's hard obviously to show you how to use and sort of give you the hands-on lab in an hour. So what we have is a 3-hour workshop where majority of the time will be provided with workbooks for you to follow. And what you'll be able to do is create reports using multiple data sets. You'll pull data and display data from multiple sources on a single report. You'll create your own widgets on the interactive dashboards, and you'll pull reports, you'll pull performance analytics data, and you'll also report data from different data sources. You can create different report ranges, database views. I'm going to demo that now or today, and you'll be able to sort of do that hands-on if you decide you're interested in doing that. And then you'll also be able to create reports and put them on the service portal. And what is required for this is an access to a ServiceNow instance. Ideally, if you have your own ServiceNow instance from the developer program that ServiceNow has, you can get that instance. It's free. All you have to do is just register, and you can get your demo instance and you can use that. If you don't have that, just contact us ahead of time, and then we'll set you up with an account and you can use one of ours. The webinar is from 9 to noon tentatively, but the time may change to an afternoon. I'm not sure how everybody's time slot will work, but Brittany will send out an invite we'll put something on our web once the date and the times are confirmed, so you can schedule at your convenience if you're interested. The other offering that we have is an 8-hour consultative offering. And this is from our services organization, where if you're looking for an assistance on a roadmap with a specific initiative that you're looking to accomplish, or if you're an existing ServiceNow customer and if you want to sort of do a level set and maybe see where you could expand and leverage additional product capabilities, you can contact the ITSM director at GSI, Gene Landmesser. With that, I'm going to go right into the demo. So let me close this. So can everybody see the ServiceNow page here? Okay, so Brittany, the browser is up, correct? Just want to confirm.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, great. So when you're in ServiceNow, the navigator obviously is here. One of the first thing you want to do is, if you have the ability to use a home page or a dashboard, I prefer and I would recommend that people change over to dashboards. So when you bring up ServiceNow and click your home page, the dashboard loads instead of a static sort of a home page or something else. And whatever dashboards that you end up using will generally end up loading. So you're going to come back to the same. This is a view, as I was showing you in the PowerPoint slides, where you can go through and look at recent access dashboards that I've created, dashboards that have been shared with me, and all of the dashboards. So it's a little slow sometimes, but you can see this is just an instance that I have internal to ServiceNow. If you get a demo account, you'll have hundreds of dashboards, as just like 1,000+ reports, and you'll just have to decide what dashboards are meaningful for you, or you take one of them, the out-of-the-box ones, and you adopt it and sort of edit it for your purposes. You can filter those dashboards depending on the product type, or you can search for it here. So what I'd like to do is start with going into reports, and then we'll come back to dashboards. So when you're in reports, everybody probably is familiar with, the view run option here to view and run a report. So when you do this, all of the reports right here comes up. I had mentioned you can also create a new report, and you go through when you do that, the series of steps. We'll come back to this as well on how you use the different tabs. This is where the reporting statistics come in on, when was the last sort of report run, scheduled, etc. The things that I think are going to be most meaningful if people are not familiar with it is here. Report sources are sort of the same thing as data sources. I've clicked on it. I'm sorry, just waiting for it to load. So when you use report sources, or also called data sources, when you actually create the report, that is what you're using when you're selecting a table that has some filters already applied. And what that does is, okay, I'm using an incident table, but hey, I only care about incidents that are open, but I also only want incidents that have certain things, additional filters. That's what data sources are. It's not cooperating, so I'm going to move on here to report ranges. Let me cancel that. See if it'll load. So here's report ranges. What this allows you to do is, instead of showing every single, for example, month, the date, where you're doing reporting on, 1st through the 30th, or on a month from every week, you can roll up and present only data by aggregates. So here, hey, I want to see incidents, for example, that were open every, between 0 to 2 days, 2 to 5 days, etc. Or I want to see some data between 0 to 20% or 20 to 40%. So these are report ranges. The other thing I really like is this interactive filters. This is what allows you to add filters and sort of slice and dice the data as needed on a report that is created on the dashboard. And let's see if I go back here to report sources, it'll come back. It seems to be back now. But doesn't like report sources for some reason. It's just getting hung up on that. But report sources are, again, like I said, just filters that have been applied for tables. So here they are. So for example, here's an incident table, and this report source says show only closed incidents. Here's a filter that says only, open incidents, etc. So you get 68 or so data sources out of the box, and you can create more. So now let's go into a couple of things here. So I'd like to start by showing you, for example, if people are not familiar with it, if you open up just incidents, for example, in a list view, right again. When you have a demo instance, it's not always the beefiest machines. When you have a list of incidents, let me try it a different way. When you look at incident, Just want to look at open incidents here and then show you how you can create reports off of list view. Try unassigned. I don't have that many incidents. Just maybe in mid-afternoon here. ServiceNow might be just experiencing a little bit of a bottleneck. Well, in the essence of time, let me jump over to view reports, see if I can get that to respond. Man, not working either. I have a backup instance here. Let me bring up a second instance. Okay, much better. Okay, so here's a list of open incidents. And when you have a list view like this, you can right click on any field and you have the choice. You right click on any field and you have the choice of creating a report off of that field. So you can create, for example, a bar chart here. We can go back, create. You can create the a pie chart. And then what you could do is, once this report is created, right now we're in the data field. So you can see, okay, I'm pulling from the incident table. I can go into here and I can change the type of report on the fly. Now it converts back to a bar chart. I can go to configure and I can say, okay, well, I don't want to group it by number. Let me group it by severity, for example. I can run that again. Severity low and one that's severity high. I can run it by category. Now we have software, inquiry, network, etc. You can also stack the data by let's do it by assignment group, for example. Let's see who else is assigned to work on these. So you can see the different color coordinates changes the color. So that's the data and the type. And you can also aggregate on count. You have 4 choices here. You can do an average, sum, or count distinct. And the difference between count and count distinct is when you have, for example, a role or a user that's in multiple assignment group, the count distinct would only just count that as 1 and not multiple for each assignment. When you come into the style tab, you can choose color palettes. So you can use static colors, or you can use chart colors that sort of uses, different color palettes across the board. When you look at them, you can see, various shades. You can just pick one and you run it, it'll change the color pattern. You can also add titles to the report. So for example, this will be the title. You can also change the font, the color, so change from black to red, for example. You can change the color title here. You can center it on the, the middle, left, bottom, etc. So you have the choices of that here. You also have the ability to label your X and Y axis. So if this is a title on the X axis, and the X axis will show up right here. You can also go on the the y-axis and do the same type of, labels. You can make the fields bold. You can scroll them across. Now what I wanted to show you was some of the report types that are sort of out of the box. So for example, I'm going to open up a handful just to kind of quickly go through a couple of examples, and then we'll start creating reports and dashboards. So here's a bar chart, for example. You can see the data that we're pulling in is again from an incident table. It's pulling in a bar chart. It's grouping the data by a category. You can also do a stack like I had showed before by anything. Well, we already have categories, so we can do it by state, for example. And you can see the data changes accordingly. You can click on this to take away the data that's in progress, on hold. So these are the filters that can be used and applied. So now we're just working with new incidents, and this is what we have for software, inquiry, etc. This button on the right-hand side here is what I was mentioning with the drill down. So you can drill down into this data. Like if I click into here right now, it'll just be a list view. But when you click on this and add a data, you can redirect it to a website, or you can redirect it to another report that you create. And I can show you that in a lab setting. And then these buttons on the top are information about the report. This is where you can share the report. You can share it to everyone. You can select a specific group or specific users, and you just use this button here to find and select the people that you want to add, or you can just add yourself here. You can also share the report, same as before, where you can have it run on a daily basis, weekly basis, etc. at a specific time. You can create the subject. You can format and add a link here in the body of the report that basically says, hey, Bob, this is a report for you, etc. And it can go out as a PDF or an image, and you can have it clickable where it gives you a static file, or it brings you back into the dashboard. You can add it to a dashboard. That's what this is. And we can go to the dashboard and pull it in from there as well. Export it to a PDF or a CSV or an Excel file. And you can also publish it to a web or to a specific group of people. Obviously, you can delete the report, and you have some other options like inserting it and creating variations off of it. So now go to the other type of report. So this is an example of a count, not very meaningful because the report is 0, but basically what this does is it sort of gives you a score of what the count of whatever you're reporting on is. This is an example of what is this one called? Oh, pivot table. So here you have the assigned users and the type of tickets depending on the category type, and that'll be in the configuration tab. You can see it's the column category here, and you're rolling up an aggregation of count by user. So this person, for example, Amelia, has 33 tickets in the software category, and this is obviously just dummy data, so just sample representation. This is a list view. So this is a report type of list, right here. So you can look at cost, and you can open this up and drill in, and this are from an ITVM space contracts associated with whatever the spend is for this category. And I want to show you this one, and one other one, the map one. So here's an example of the partial sort of a dial that shows what a CSAT score is. Again, if you click into it, you can go into the list view that makes up the CSAT survey. Same sort of CSAT for last year. This is incident by location, so you can have a map that's narrowed into a specific country, specific states. This is all of the world, and you can organize that by different color schemes. That's where the style would come in. For example, hey, we don't want light blue for the ones that are in trouble. Let's do red. Actually, I can do it this way. Red palette. So now it's going to sort of change it, and then I can make it, green or white for the lower country scores like this. That's what the world map, the map view report looks like. Here's a simple example of a line chart, same sort of a thing. So these are sort of, sample report types that I picked out of the 1,000 or so that are available. Now let's go ahead and start creating our own reports. So when you go into View, Run Report, you can start right here, create a report. And you can also go from the tab, Test Report, for example. You can select the report from report that'll pull data from any of these sources. So you can have a data source. Again, that's just the table with filters applied to it. For now, we'll just pick something from a table. Let's try incident. Okay, so we can click from the incident table, and we're going to do a type, and we can do a simple bar chart like we had done before. Progresses through the tab, and you can see, okay, we're pulling data where by incident count we have over 9,000 or so incidents, and we can do a group by configuration item. Now you can see, okay, we modified that data so it shows it over by different type of assets. You can stack that by category. So this is, same thing, interactive, hardware, inquiry, etc. Kind of, massages the data as needed. Same sort of, color palette. This is sort of the simple tab, so I'm not going to go back and kind of go through the different options. I think it's pretty intuitive. Let me jump over to the dash, go actually create a different report. I want to show you a report using a view. Let's try this. And we're going to use a table here. Now we're going to call it so you see this incident metric, it's not a table, even though it shows up in this list. And how this works is, let me go to an incident, for example, to show you. If you open up an incident, so if you open up an incident, this denotes a reference field. So you can go from Daniel King to the user record for Daniel King, and you can look at information about that user. There are also other reference fields, and when you create a report and you go through here, you have the ability, when you get to the configure tab, to what's called, let me let it catch up for a second. So now you have the list of incidents, like we have another, we were looking at another tab, and now you can do, you see this arrow right here. This is what the reference field allows you to filter into. So for example, if we go into a user record, actually it'll be off of the incident. So let's do, for example, this is assigned to, oops. So caller will be the user. And then you can walk over to, for example, say user manager, for example. And is in department. Business unit. Company. So basically what we're doing is walking through the user to its department, to its business unit, and you can pick any field here. And so for example, if we pick the country field, it'll be user by the specific country. And this one doesn't have a country, but you get the idea. This dot sort of denotes the reference field that you would be walking in the user sort of caller record here. So you would go from that. I've got to open the record to be able to show you the same thing that we did. So you can go from the user to its manager to its country, etc. And then go over here. I'm going to show you on the view run report. On the all incidents by category. You can apply, when you create this report, you can do a comparison. So for example, if you want to compare amongst different items or by different location. So for example, we're going to do a stack by aggregate count. Oh, I have to do that in a where I lost my tree. Oh, okay. So go through the next, configure additional group by, there it is. So now I can do an additional field. So I can pick for any of this category, the same sort of thing. And I can say, okay, let's say for incident that has service level, and also priority. And now this is the interactive filter that I was talking about, where you can filter it by different things. So without having to create a different report, I've given the ability to create a report that reports on incidents by category, but I can also slice and dice the data by different things. Now let's go to dashboards. So like I said, out of the box, you get all of these different ServiceNow dashboards. Maybe I can show you a dashboard and then show you how to create a series of dashboards. So this is an example of an out-of-box CMDB dashboard. These are the options that were sort of highlighted in the PowerPoint presentation with the bubbles. You can create a new dashboard, duplicate it, copy it as a URL if you'd like to share it, etc. Export it to a PDF. This changes the view from the view we were in to the other one. Just go back and change that. You can also create tabs. So one tab, second tab, 3 tabs, sort of like a browser. Each tab will have different data presented on it. You can go from one dashboard to the other pretty easily with this drop down. This is where you start creating your own dashboards or adding and modifying an existing dashboard. This is the same sort of process as you have in the report to be able to share dashboards with everybody, groups, users, or people with specific roles. This is the configuration item of being able to create a dashboard, and these are sort of like your quick layouts where, hey, do you want a dashboard with a 3x3 blocks, or blocks with 3 rows, etc. This is a block with 3 by 3 on 2 rows, and then you have a single, so it's a custom one. It's not one of the blocks. And then you can also do the same. Let's just go ahead and modify this one. So for example, if I want to add a widget, I can pick from any of the reports that are there. I can start with, for example, incident management. Oh, I forgot to do this. So when you filter the report, you have to find reports that are either created by you or by anyone. For me, it'll be, I'm selecting anyone. So now this will work. Now you see all of these reports came up, hundreds of them, right? So now I want to filter this further. Incident, I think there's a report called Incident Management. There should have been. Let's try this for now. So I can just add this, it'll add it to the bottom here. No, jumped up the top. So I can now, since this configuration tab is clicked, it'll allow it to add. If it's not clicked, it won't allow it to add. So when you have it in the edit mode here, you can come and resize the widget the size that you want, and it scales accordingly. You can come and have, when you click on the pencil, it goes back into the report mode. So, hey, I don't like it the way the report was done, and I want to change that. You have that choice, and you would go through the same sort of configuration parameters that I had explained before. You can also resize the widget. You can make it bigger this way, and if you hold the shift key and press this again, it'll make that smaller. When you click the gear icon here, you can change the border header of this widget. Same sort of options as in the report. You can select the color theme for the header, the background for the block, etc. So you can center that. You can see on the background this is changing as well. Now let me show you a couple of quick dashboards here that I think are nice and that you can use as a starting off point. So for example, there's an incident map one. Oops, sorry, I'm in the wrong block. That, go to all, search. This is a very nice dashboard. So this gives you a pretty nice sample of different types of reports that are available on a dashboard and that you can create. So for example, you can see you've got incident data, that are with open incidents, not updated in 30 days. You can also see a list of indicators in terms of metrics of, hey, how many new incidents, how many resolved incidents do I have over a course? And if you have performance analytics, you can set metrics on what targets you want to achieve and measure as to how likelihood of you getting and meeting those targets. The same, again, type of different bar charts and pie charts that are, or donuts here, chart that's available. And again, you can, modify this data as you need it. This is, so that was an example of a dashboard for incident. Let me show you a dashboard for service level. And then we'll create a couple of dashboards. So same sort of data, but now you can see this one has what I showed you on the slide right here. Interactive filters, see there right here, and you can do the breakdowns. So that's what this is. You can do, task stage assigned to a specific user. So now I can see how my, people are performing. He's obviously hitting it out of the park with, so many incidents resolved or SLAs met. And then you have, I want to show you one last one before we go into another area, CMDB corrective dashboard. Oh, we already did this. Okay, so we don't need to do this now. Let's go ahead and create a new dashboard. So going to dashboards, new, test. That's pretty much all you need to do. You want to make sure you have this active so it makes it interactive. Submit that. Now you can see there's not really anything on it. We can start adding to our dashboard the same sort of things that we had seen before. We can start picking out reports that we want to add. And for our purposes, I think start with the incident maybe. So report by anyone, apply, incident by category. I think it's incidents, sorry, it's plural. Incidents by category, so I can add that. I can even just go ahead and create my blocks. And if I want to add performance analytics, I can do list, pivot, score, any type of reports that I want off of that. I can do a breakdown, that's the aggregation. I can do a text or time series or workbench widget. I can also do content blocks. So for example, if I add new static HTML block, so for example, I want a link that'll take people to open incidents. I can just come over here and copy this link. As soon as it comes up, I can copy it. And we're going to have our services people on the workshop. So if you have, sort of specific questions or you want to do a deep dive in a specific area during the workshop, we're going to be able to break you guys out into a breakout session. So you can ask questions and go into details that we necessarily can't hear. So with the essence of time, why don't I pass this back to you, Brittany? What I would have done was I would have just added the link here using this link, and that link would have been added, and that would have been another, thing that I could present onto a dashboard. So, Brittany, do you want to take control back?
Yep. Now. All right. Thanks, Keaton. And now I would like to cover up a few follow items from our webcast. You can check out our erptalk.com, which is a problem-solving forum where you can get your ServiceNow and other enterprise applications answered, as well as contribute your answers to others' questions. Stay connected with us on social media. All of our handles are currently listed on the screen. You can see our most up-to-date posts on webcasts, events, industry insights, and so much more. GSI provides extensive free educational resources for the ServiceNow community, including our monthly educational webcast, monthly newsletter called the GSI Insider, our online resource center where you can access our on-demand webcasts, white papers, etc., on-site and virtual workshops. If you would like to sign up for our weekly email reminders for upcoming webcasts or monthly newsletter, or to create an account to access our resource center, go to getgsi.com, go to resources and events on the main menu, select ServiceNow, and then you select the appropriate link on the right. And now we will go into our question and answer section. We do have a question from Daniel. Can you show how one might report against content in a visual task board?
I would have to show that to you, and I'll make a note to do that on the webinar.
Perfect.
I mean, on the workshop, excuse me. You can do that, and you can have on the, what you wouldn't do is have a data onto a visual task board, but I can show you how to pull a visual task data into the report.
Awesome, thank you. And it appears we are actually out of time. So we won't be able to answer all the questions today, as we'll need to wrap up. If you have any questions that were not answered, we'll get back to you with a quick answer for each of your questions. And as a follow-up from today's webcast, we would like to, you'll be getting a 1-minute survey when you exit, and you'll also receive an email with a link to the Resource Center on our website, where you can access the recording from today's webcast as well as a copy of the presentation. After today's webcast, we will do the drawing for the $25 Amazon gift card. Anyone that attended the entire webcast will be eligible. We will then notify the winner. If you have any follow-up questions, you can contact Keaton or Jean, and their information is here on the screen. And again, thank you so much for attending our webcast.
Thank you.
Thanks.